Enthusiasts are in mourning today because Fuji-Q Highland over in Japan announced that the world's fastest accelerating roller coaster, Do-Dodonpa, is indeed permanently closing after a 2-year Son of Beast-esque period of uncertainty.
Yeah, the ride had a couple accidents, and it was just closed for a long time, and no one had any idea what was going on with it, and the park just announced that it is permanently closed.
Do-Dodonpa was one of only a handful of roller coasters in the world that used an air-compressed launch system that gave it the capabilities of launching at such insane speeds. Not even the speeds. It went 112 miles per hour, which there are coasters faster, but it went 112 miles per hour in only 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, which is unheard of. No other coaster in the world comes anywhere close to that. So the acceleration is just absolutely ridiculous.
Like right now, there's a debate of whether Max Force at Six Flags Great America or Stealth at Thorpe Park in England will be the second, will be number 2. And those only launch at like what, 80 miles per hour or something like that?
80 and 78 miles an hour. So nowhere, and those are in like 1.8 seconds, but that doesn't come anywhere close to the 112 that Do-Dodonpa was.
So Do-Dodonpa originally opened in 2001 as actually just, instead of Do-Dodonpa, it was just Dodonpa. They added the Do in 2017
when they made some other changes that we'll get into in a little bit.
So like we said, this was built in 2001 and in December 2001, and that was just a few short months after King's Dominion in Doswell, Virginia built the very first S&S hydraulic, air compressed launch coaster called Hypersonic XLC. This thing was plagued with problems and issues, and it made it close down in 2007.
Yeah, so 2001 to 2007, which is a very short operating time for a roller coaster. So yeah, it was just a maintenance nightmare, always broke down, and King's Dominion just had enough.
And not coincidentally, they closed down in 2007, just a couple years after Cedar Fair purchased Paramount, which owned King's Dominion whenever they built Hypersonic XLC.
Yeah.
So that will play into more things in the future of this video, what we're going to be talking about, the future of air compressed launch coasters that still exist today. But before we get into that, we'd like to say thank you for coming and watching this video. If you're new to this channel, please go down and subscribe. We do all sorts of content about amusement parks and roller coasters, vlogs, informational videos,
all sorts
analysis,
of
stuff like that. So if that's what you're into, make sure you subscribe. And after you subscribe and you go through and watch all our videos that we've posted in the past, and you're like, okay, we need absolutely more videos, we got good news for you. We have a channel membership where they have exclusive videos. You can be like one of these fine people right here. They join our channel membership and they get exclusive videos, exclusive pictures, shout outs like this. Plus it helps our channel so much.
Yeah, so definitely recommend that.
Now getting back into this video, we really wanted to talk about our opinion about what the future of these air compressed launch coasters from S&S. There's not many. There's one being built, and I'm not sure if it's even an S&S. I don't think it is, because there are some air compressed launch coasters in China that have been built that are not from S&S, but there's one at Colorful World.
Yeah, that's being built, but I don't know if it is S&S or not. Colorful World.
That's hard
very hard to say. I think it's a smaller park because I've actually never heard of it. But yeah, they're building one. I don't know if it's S&S or not, but there are very few S&S air compressed launch coasters still in operation. There's Powder Keg at Silver Dollar City, Max Force at Six Flags Great America, and that's it.
And before this last one that is being built at Colorful World in China, the last one to be built was Max Force at Six Flags Great America. And that has been plagued with nothing but downtime. People that go to the park complain
it was just
that it'll just be like down constantly throughout the day.
Yeah, I remember when it first opened, all the people were going and like, yeah, I could try Max Force, this is going to be so good. And it was just closed and everyone's complaining, oh, it's closed all day for me. And I think it's still having a lot of the same issues that it did before.
And you mentioned Powder Keg. Powder Keg is at Silver Dollar City. Now that is an S&S air compressed launch coaster, but I don't think we're really going to include that in this video at all because it doesn't have the issues, because I think it only launches at to 58 miles per hour.
53,
53
yes,
miles
0
per
to
hour.
53 miles an hour. So it's nowhere. It's more of a kind of family thrill coaster, not unlike Max Force, which is a complete thrill coaster. So that ride's a little bit more reliable, but they're not like pushing the limits as much as they do with rides like Max Force.
Now, air compressed launch coasters have such issues because there are so many moving parts. It's a lot like the hydraulic launch system that Top Thrill Dragster and King Ka and Accelerator.
Yeah, a lot of Intamin coasters use.
Yeah, and they all were plagued with plenty of issues, and that's because there are so many moving parts. There are catch cars that have to attach to the bottom of the trains. There's cables, there's different sorts of either with hydraulic launch, you need nitrogen gas to compress and do the launch, and then the air compressed obviously is air.
Right.
There's so many things that can go wrong opposed to LSM coasters, which are taking over the launch coaster industry.
Yes, LSM coasters are everywhere. I mean, you probably know a lot of them. Pantheon Velocicoaster, Tutatis. There are just so many of them, and that is definitely the way that the amusement park industry is leaning with launch coasters. They're done with hydraulics, and they're really done with air compressed launches. They are all moving to LSMs.
And LSM is just more safe and reliable because it doesn't have any sort of moving parts. It's an electric stator, and it doesn't have to connect to the train at all. It's just metal on the train, and then the magnets on the stators, and then it just goes. So that's all that you need for this. And that's why half the roller coasters being built nowadays, even the family coasters, are launch coasters, and they're all using LSM systems.
Yeah.
And no one is using the air compressed launch system because of all the issues.
Yeah, there's a few exceptions. Like some are still using LIMs, but LIMs aren't nearly as popular as LSMs are.
And LIMs are still a magnet. It's just not as like an efficient way to use the magnet, and it uses more power and stuff like that. So, but now the meat and bones of this video, talking about what we think the future of roller coasters, and a lot of it is going to be Max Force because that is the main roller coaster that still uses the S&S air compressed launch system. And we got to talk about what we think is going to happen to that ride, because that ride was open in 2019. So even Hypersonic XLC lasted, this will only be its 6th year. Hypersonic XLC lasted 7 years. So at the very minimum, it's got at least this season coming up and one more season after this before it's torn out.
But do we really think that's going to be torn out next year? No, it's not going to be.
It wasn't a cheap roller coaster to build, so they are going to try to get the most out of that investment as possible. But there is something to think about. Now, the closing of the merger for Six Flags and Cedar Fair is about to take place in just a few short months. Now, once that happens, Cedar Fair will be the company that is kind of like mostly in charge, because they're going to be moving Richard Zimmerman, the CEO of Cedar Fair. He's going to be the CEO
of the combined company.
Company, which will be Six Flags. Now, earlier in the video, I pointed out that King's Dominion didn't tear down Hypersonic XLC until 2007, a couple years after Cedar Fair took over. Now, the big thing to look out for is that Cedar Fair is much more willing to abandon projects, as shown with what Cedar Point just did with Snake River Expedition.
Yeah, now obviously Snake River Expedition isn't to the extent as a big roller coaster is, but still they aren't too afraid to, like you said, abandon some projects.
They aren't tied to things as much as something like Six Flags. Six Flags seems like they're more willing to just invest money year after year into a ride so they don't eat $20-25 million that they spent on a ride. While Cedar Fair is more willing to say, hey, you know what, we're not going to spend $600,000, $700,000, $1 million a year with upkeep on a ride whenever we can just take it out and just eat the cost. So that is something to definitely think about whenever this merger happens. Will Cedar Fair be more willing to take out something like Max Force and leave S&S air compressed launch systems basically with the dinosaurs back in Jurassic Park down at Islands of Adventure?
Now, one alternative, instead of tearing it down, is changing some parts of it, because like I said before, Do-Dodonpa did have some changes in 2017. They renamed it from Do-Dodonpa to Do-Dodonpa, and they removed the very hypersonic XLC-like top hat and replaced it with a vertical loop. Now, could they make some changes to Max Force like they did to Do-Dodonpa? No, I don't think so. It doesn't really have anything to do with the launch. So I think Max Force will stay the same.
Yeah, changing the ride and reprofiling it, I don't think would really do anything.
No.
And changing the launch system
to an LSM
or something, putting a spike on it or something like that. That's something to think about.
But it just won't work because the launch track is so small with Max Force. It is designed for that air compressed launch to get you up to that speed in 1.9 seconds or whatever it is. So an LSM, they just aren't nearly as punchy as air compressed launches are. So they would have to reprofile the whole layout to make it fit an LSM and slower speeds. So that just really won't happen unless they have some serious issues with Max Force. Because like with Do-Dodonpa, people were getting hurt on it. Like people were breaking bones and stuff on it. It was really bad. So as long as stuff like that doesn't happen on Max Force, I think it should be pretty safe.
Let us know what you think down in the comments. Have you ridden Max Force? Do you think it's a coaster that is expendable at that park?
I don't think it is. It's one of the big three there with Raging Bull and Goliath. So
I can't wait to ride it because we've yet to go to Six Flags Great America, which we plan on going to this year. So I definitely want to ride Max Force because launches are probably one of my single most favorite elements on any roller coaster. So we hope that it's safe.
Yeah, and have you ridden Do-Dodonpa, and are you sad about that leaving? Because I sure am, because that was one of the top bucket list coasters for me. I really wanted to ride that because experiencing a launch like that, we probably will never be able to do anything like that ever again.
They'll never be anything to touch anything like that.
I hope there will be. I really hope so. Unless some like LSMs really become more powerful, something, I don't know. Or hydraulic or air compressed launches become more stable somehow in the future. I mean, fingers crossed that they can work out that technology somehow. Yeah, but this is just really sucks with Do-Dodonpa losing a coaster like that, making Fuji Q go down to just 3 really good coasters instead of 4. That was one of their signature coasters, probably the second best coaster at that park. So it really sucks. So that is it. Hopefully Max Force is safe, but watch out. Cedar Fair is lurking around the corner. Don't touch Max Force. Ready to take out anything. Don't touch it. That costs them a lot of money. So that is it for this video. If you liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And we'll see you guys next time right here on Beach Cliff Studios.